All right, welcome back. We're going to welcome in Coach Norrid. I hope I said it right, but I probably didn't.
No, you
Um,
did.
he's the O-line run game at University of Louisiana-Lafayette, or known as the Raging Cajuns. I tell people, they go, "What?" I'm like, "Raging Cajuns," and they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the University of." And so, Coach, welcome in.
Thanks for having me.
Um, you said before I hit record, you said things are going good. You had a nice little vacation. Now you're back in the office. How do we feel going into the summer and to camp?
Really good. Whenever we got done with the bowl game, our players got a couple of weeks off and for the holiday break and came down and when they got back for our winter workouts and the winter conditioning aspect of it, they really saw a lot of improvement with the physical development of everybody. And then going into spring ball, that's always just a more isolate the technical development of those guys. And tell you, we had a great spring. We've got a lot more depth this year. There's a lot of guys that were really young. Some guys kind of missed the majority of the season last year. Well, they're now healthy, and so a lot of those guys showed significant improvement from day one to spring to day 15, and
Uh-huh.
then going through the summer, coming back after vacation this past week, seeing these guys walking around, they're different. And our
Uh-huh.
strength coach Connor Neighbors and his staff, man, those guys have done a phenomenal job of getting these guys looking the way they're supposed to look. And I know they're feeling good. Our guys are excited, and just every step of our program that we've gone through from the start of the year till now, there's been a very significant increase in the development
Uh-huh.
of not only the older guys that we're going to count on for the majority of the snaps this year, but the younger guys that are going to be the next man up, so to speak. So I'm fired up, man. I'm ready to get this thing going, and I know from the guys that I've talked to individually, we've got a total different team vibe.
Uh-huh.
Overall team confidence is different, and they're ready to play. They're ready to get going. So which is a night and day different than where we were at this time last year.
Yeah, because that's a place where I was going to say Raging Cajuns are known for football. I think like it's known
Oh
for
yeah.
winning. It's known for doing all that stuff. So, um, when you first got there, I think I read what 3 years ago. I think you've been there. Is this your third year there?
It's my third season yet.
Yeah. When you got there, was there that expectation of like we can't, we're a winning program? Was there that expectation?
Oh yeah, before I got here, they'd had some really good years, and they were kind of right on the verge of winning that championship. There's one year they got in 2019, they got to the championship game and lost,
Uh-huh.
and then in 2020 because of COVID, that game got canceled. So the jumping in here, the overall vibe of the whole team was very confident.
Uh-huh.
And they were out to get that championship. They knew they'd been close. They knew they were capable of doing it, and go to Texas in week one and didn't really play great. Texas won, but after that won 13 games in a row and ended
Uh-huh.
up in a really special season.
Yeah, because I always watch Raging Cajuns because I love the names. I try to watch them, and I'm like, yeah, that looks like a good program. Then you research and you're like, oh, they've always been kind of sneaky good, like not talked about, which is an exciting. When you walk into a place like that, say we win, that's actually kind of exciting. There's no pressure. It's like exciting. Like, okay, we win. That's the standard, and that's what we do. Because I've been on that word. The big word I've been searching this offseason is like culture, and that word gets thrown around all the time. And so I've really looked at it. So like when you get there, you're with the O line. How do you command like the standard of your room and the standard of the run game stuff? Like what would be like advice to younger coaches? Like you have to command that room. So like how do you develop the standard and everything there in
Well,
your
you have to build trust. When I first got here, these guys have already had success,
room?
and a lot of those guys had a lot of won a lot of the awards and all that stuff. So, my deal was, hey, I'm not just coming here to try to keep this the same. I'm going to show
Mm-hmm.
you guys how we can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was very honest about how I felt about where they were as individual players, and it was very specific about, hey, this is our plan to get you where you need to be, really get you guys over that hump. And at first it was kind of tough for some of these guys because again they had been used to doing certain things a certain way. They
Uh-huh.
had a lot of confidence in that way, And I came in here and had a totally different way of teaching the fundamental aspect of it, and a totally different process of developing that. So at first there was a little like, hey, well, who is this guy? What is he doing? But
Right.
slowly, but surely over time, they start to see, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm trying this. Yeah, this has worked. Yeah, we're getting
Uh-huh.
better here. And then that's how you win the room over. That's how you build that trust. And once that got established, we were rolling, and I knew we were
Uh-huh.
going to have a special year.
I did the same thing. I got hired in the COVID year like an idiot. I was like, let me take this in summer of 2020. COVID can't last that long. And well, then we saw what happened. But I was that crazy asshole that came in and was like, they never had a true O line coach, which I think there's not a lot, I guess, because uh, I'm going into my 14th year. I'm about to be 33 years old. I've been coached since I was 19. I walked on at EIU, got my ass kicked, said this is enough. It wasn't for me. I started coaching, and I came in, and every time I moved around, it was, well, we need an O line coach because guys were just doing it. And the only thing they coached was, hey, just hit them. And I was like, well, there's a lot more to just hitting people. It's how do you get there, the technique and everything else. So when I came in, I'm like, we're going to be an inside zone team. We're going to be this. We're going to be this. And this is how we're going to do it. It took a while. And that's why I think I was talking to you today. We looked pretty good. It's finally getting there. It took a couple years, but it's finally like looking the way it should. And I had to do this. I had to command that room. And like, I found myself always given a reason why, like kids question things nowadays. And I think so now it's, if I come in and I say, we're going to do this because this is what it's going to happen, they respect that more than just telling them we're going to do this because I said so. Like they need that confidence in you that it's going to work.
That's one thing that I've found early on in my coaching career, that you really don't get the best out of your players, or the best sense of urgency or focus, whatever you want to call it, if you just say, hey, do this because I told you to do it.
Uh-huh.
That doesn't work. It's important that your players know why are you
Uh-huh.
doing what you're doing. And that's how I approach it.
Yeah.
I don't ever come in like the old school drill sergeant and just ranting and raving and all that. I'm not into that. I approach this like a teacher of the game. That's how I
Yeah.
am. And we've all had that saying. We've heard that saying that if I only knew then what I know now, how much better of a player that I would have been.
Uh-huh.
Well, I approach this as, hey, I want my players to know what I know now, so that
Yeah.
they are the best they can be.
Uh-huh.
And so, even in the meeting room, everything, I like to be very interactive. I want them to ask questions. And if you get that silence, I'll ask them questions. Hey, why are we doing this? Why do you think you have to do this? Why does your foot have to be here? Why do
Uh-huh.
you think your hand has to be here? Just to make sure that they're really focused on the why.
Uh-huh.
And I just think that helps out with the overall understanding and the buy-in and the development.
Yeah. Because I remember when I played, maybe when you played, you just did it. You were just like, oh, this is what we do. And like, I didn't know what a fullback was when I played O-line. I didn't know what was going on behind me. I didn't know what a gap, like, sadly enough, it was just like, I didn't know what one technique was. I didn't know what this was. Then when I started doing it, I'm like, let me try to teach them what a one technique is. Let me try to tell them, hey, on power, this is why this looks this way. Or, because when I run power, it used to be it has to hit a B gap. Like it was 44 power. It's got to hit here. Now I'm like, it might hit A gap. It might hit B gap because I got to teach you where the techniques are, how the gap moves. And like you said, if I knew that, I would have been a lot better as a 19-year-old coach. But I didn't know that stuff. I had to go out and learn it. And now it's like, now I got to try to tell them. And now I got linemen saying like, oh yeah, that's an RPO. If they're sitting off watching, they know what an RPO is. And I'm like, man, when I was your guys' age, I didn't know what that was. Like it wasn't a real thing then, but like I wouldn't have paid attention. I wouldn't have understood all that.
I think it's important to teach players the big picture.
Yeah.
Obviously, when I played, it was, hey, here's your assignment, right?
Yep.
Here's what you do right here. That's all you got to pay attention to. And I never had a real sense of the big picture. And so when I first became a student assistant in Arkansas, I had a lot of learning to do. I didn't know anything.
Uh-huh.
And so now the way I approach this is whenever I install a play, I install not only just the individual assignments, but I want them to know what their role is as it relates to the big picture,
Uh-huh.
and what the answers are. If there's any threat from either side on the perimeter, hey, here's our answer. Hey, you guys got to handle this. Oh, hey, don't worry about it. Quarterback and receivers are going to handle this. And
Uh-huh.
this is why. And when I was at Alabama, I got to work with Jeff Stoughton for a couple of years, and I thought he did a really good job of teaching the offensive line, pre-snap recognition, what the defense was going to do,
Uh-huh.
and even now, our very first meeting, we go into game week. I teach the offensive line what the defense is that we're about to face, and
Uh-huh.
I'll spend 20 to 30 minutes, and I'll pretend that I'm our opponent's defensive coordinator and they're the defensive players who we're playing, and I install the entire defense. Formation adjustments, how they set the fronts, the run fits versus inside plays, outside plays, how they play the gap scheme, they box it, they spill it. I install their pressures, how the pre-snap keys are the pressures, how to identify different tips like that.
Uh-huh.
And then we come back and I'll install our run game plan. I'll start with that. And it's okay. Now you guys know what we're about to face, what this defense is. Now here's what we're going to do. Now you know why we're doing what we're doing. And it's been great to see that, not only just from the run game, but protections as well, because players really get excited about learning more about the game. They really do. And what I've learned is that a lot of guys will get excited because you'll be watching film and go, hey coach, what about this play? Could we run this? Yeah, we can. We can run this, and I'll go to the head coach and say, hey, listen, let's throw this in the game plan. And they get so excited whenever that's in the plan. Whether you run it or not, they're excited because they have a sense of ownership. They've really contributed, to what we're doing that week. And then sometimes I'll say, yeah, that's a good idea, but here's why we're not running it. Okay,
Right.
Here's why this is not going to be as good. And it helps their overall knowledge of the game. And one thing that I found, I did this when I was at Florida Atlantic, and obviously I've done this in my time here in Louisiana. It's a lot easier to make adjustments when the players come off the sideline. The communication, what you're talking about, it's a lot more productive. For example, we'll come off after the first or second series. One of our guys say, "Hey, coach, these guys have shown this. We worked this, but hey, this is something that they're doing. Hey, what do you think about making this call?" Well, yeah, go do it. I trust them now. They know what's going on. I trust them to, hey, if you see something different, hey, you've got an assortment of calls in your quote tool bag. Hey, you don't have to necessarily come and ask me. You see it, you know what to do. Go make the call. Let's go cover it up. And I just think that it helps. It helps you during the course of a game. When you do face a defense that does things differently, you're not waiting until halftime to try to fix something. It's fixed now, and it helps that process go a little bit quicker, and you can get back ahead in the game a little bit faster.
Well, that goes back to if they know why and understand the big picture, that helps. That's the perfect communication to come off, which I had to learn too. And I'm learning it again this year because there's times where my mind switches. I'm like, nope, you got to do it the way I told you to. Then you think about like, well, Steve, you're not the one out there playing. They're seeing it. And if you keep things simple enough, when they come to you, they're like, hey, we're deucing here, we're getting here, but then they're doing this. What if we call this call where I'm solo blocking or whatever it is? And you go, hey, if you think you can do it, go do it. And we're going to see if it works. And then they start to trust you and then they communicate better. And then I found then they communicate better in school. Then if they can talk to me as an adult, then when they get to class, then it translates to that, which is what we want. We want them to be good people. And it just, then they feel more comfortable. They get out of their shell a little bit and then all that stuff. And that's why I think offensive line meeting rooms are the best, in my opinion. That's just me, because we have our own language. I have a few screws missing, so I'm bounced all over the place. But then you joke with them, and then they'll joke back with you, and they're more comfortable. And then I go to like a quarter, no offense to our quarterback coach, but you go in there and everything's like, what the hell were you like? I'm like, oh, you gotta have some fun. Like, whatever it is, talk about going to a buffet. Like, hey, go block that guy like you're running to the buffet, man. Come on. Like, what are you doing? Or something.
I've experienced the same thing. I worked with a lot of different positions throughout my career, and there's sometimes you go into meeting rooms, it's a little too uptight.
Yeah.
And the way I like to do it, I want my meetings to be a relaxed learning environment. I want that to be very interactive because at the end of the day, when we come out of that meeting, it doesn't matter what I know; it only matters what they know.
Yep.
And so that setting and that environment's a little bit different than what we do on the field. And our guys are really mature competitors that they know when, hey, it's time to kind of be in that more learning mode versus, all right, let's buckle our chin strap. It's time to go to work. They get it.
Well, because I saw you present at the clinic in Chicago this year in Oak Brook, and I was like, this guy has high energy. I love it. And I just sat there, and the way you presented it, I was like, I can imagine that's what the meeting room is: high energy, and it's fun. And our head coach asked me, "Where are you at?" I was like, "Oh, I'm in Coach Norrid's thing. Come here." So he came. I was like, "See how he's presenting? Look how excited he is about pass protection." And our head coach goes, "I love this." And I was like, "You see why all of us O-line coaches are like this?" I said, "I'm not the only one." And I respected that. I was like, "This guy's high energy. He loves it."
This is, I love talking. This is my hobby, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is, to me, this is not a job. I love talking ball. I love it. So I naturally get excited about it. But one thing I learned early on in my time at Arkansas is that you have to, as a coach, you have to kind of present and simulate that level of excitement and energy, because your players are going to feed off you. If I come to a meeting, I'm like, all right, here we're talking about inside zone again. All right, let's talk about this TE twist. How we're going to pick it up again. Well, the players are going to they're going to feed off that. They're going to be checked out and be like, hey, they're going to look at their watches. All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Great example. When I was at Arkansas as a GA, we hired a defensive coordinator named Reggie Herring. And, Reggie was a great high energy coach, and he brought it every day. I mean, every day. And I just always thought, man, this guy's he just wired up all the time. And what I would learn from him was it wasn't like that all the time. There's sometimes that he and I would walk together after the practice field, and he'd be like, oh man, my back hurts. Just, man, I didn't get my sleep last night. I'm kind of tired. Oh man, I got to really get my mind right. But as soon as he hit that practice field, he's ramped up and ready to go. And he simulates that excitement and enthusiasm, because, just learning from him and seeing that, the players feed off you. They feed off that. And I think it's really important that coaches always be mindful of that. Hey, there's always certain times in the season, or maybe it's in the middle of the fall camp, where, hey, we're tired too. We're all dragging too, but man, you always gotta be ready to go. And the way I always looked at it from my standpoint is, whenever I walk in the room, I'm always trying to win the day. I'm trying to win those players over every day. And I think that a lot of coaches think that, hey, I've got this job title now, everybody's going to have to respect me and listen to me and do what I want. It don't work that way. That's not life, man. You got to go in there, and every day you got to earn it. You got to earn the players' trust, their respect, and you got to bring it. We expect them to practice and compete at a high level every day. Well, as coaches, you got to do the same thing. And your players got to see you that way. Because if they see you taking a day off, they see you just over there chilling, well, that's what your players are going to see. And they're not going to trust you. They're not going to be as bought in. And so I think it's really important to kind of have that.
Yeah, it happened to me today. I got there. I got up late today, so everything was thrown off. It was one of those days you woke up a little bit late, you're dropping everything, you're throwing off. I get to school, head coach is like, "What's up?" And I was like, "Nothing." And you throw stuff down, you're in that mode. Then as soon as I got out to the field, some of the kids I could tell were like in a bad mood. I was like, they need to laugh. So I go over there and start joking. And immediately it's like, now I'm back. And just because I hit the field, I had walked on the practice field. Immediately I could tell the kids were tense. Some of the other coaches were tense. I was tense, and I was like, screw this. We're playing football. We get to be out here. I had that mindset. I'm trying to get into that mode. We get to be here. We get to do this. Like Chip Kelly was on a podcast yesterday, and he said, don't cry on the yacht, because he's like, we got it made, man. Like, we got it made. Why are you crying? People have it worse. And so I was like, brilliant. So I'm out there. I was like, guys, we get to be here. You could be at a job right now working. You got the rest of your life to work. We're on the football field, man. Like, some kids don't get to do this. Some kids got hurt. Like, some kids are not an opportunity, and blah, 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 blah. Let's have some fun and joke around. And now I'm back. Like, it was immediate, and we feed off each other. If they were in a bad mood, I started to feed off of it, and vice versa. And so then the O-line, we get down there and we start joking around. And then what started to happen was they started to coach the younger kids. I had my seniors coaching the younger kids. It was just this big thing today. And that's why I was in a good mood. I was like, this is it. Like, it's coming together. Like, and so it all works that way. But that's why I respected you watching that. I'm like, he is so excited to be presenting to us coaches and like talk to us like we weren't five. He was talk to us like we were players and adults, and I loved it. And that's why I was like, I got to talk to this guy, because he was all about it. Like, I loved it. I was like, this is my guy. Loved
I
it.
appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it.
So like for you guys, so like you've been at different places. What, before you got to where you are now, was there anything big you were taking from those places and say, this is what I'm going to mold myself into, especially early on? Like when you're trying to learn, then it finally clicks, like, this is who I'm going to be, this is how I'm going to coach? Was there anything big from those places you brought to here?
I got very lucky, early on to get some great opportunities to learn for some great coaches. And, of course, I started out, I was a walk on at Arkansas. And really, the truth be known, the reason why I walked on is because my goal was to be a high school coach in the state of Arkansas. And I thought that if I just walked on, I was a part of the team,
Mhm.
that I would put that on my resume, and that might help me, be a marketable candidate to get a high school job. And so that's why I walked on. And so before my time at Arkansas, I had transferred from another school. So by the time my eligibility was up, I still had some, some schoolwork to do. And before I got my bachelor's degree, and my last year, I remember going up to Houston Nutt, who was the head coach at the time, and I said, "Hey, coach, man, do you mind writing me a letter of recommendation that I could copy and put with my resume, so when it's time for me to go out and go to interviews, I can have a letter of recommendation?"
Mhm.
And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." He goes, "But when do you graduate?" I said, "Well, coach, I still got a couple more years. It's still going to be a while." He goes, "No, no, no, you come help me out." And so that's how I got into college coaching. And that
Mhm.
that one moment completely changed my life. And I will always be forever grateful for Coach Nutt for that opportunity. And was there a total of 5 years, 2 as a student assistant, and then he hired me on as the on the field GA, and worked with the offensive line, tight ends, and special teams. And helped out a guy named Mike Markison, who was our offensive line coach at the time, and we had great running games at Arkansas at the time. Had great running backs, Darren McFadden, Felix
Mhm.
Jones, Peyton Hillis. Um, you know, was there when I got to a front row seat to listen to those guys create the Wildcat offense and that whole thing, and see how that
Yeah.
came together, which was an unbelievable experience for me. And then after my time at Arkansas, when Coach Nutt left and went to Ole Miss, I had a chance to go work at Alabama. At first as an off the field GA, and then later got an analyst role, and ended up doing that for 6 years. And of course, in my time there, I got to learn from so many different people.
Mhm.
Joe Pendry, helped me get the job there, and I got to work with Jeff Stoughton for a couple of years, Mario Cristobal,
Mhm.
Mike Groh, Burton Burns. Obviously, Lane Kiffin was there my last year there. Doug Nussmeier, who's one of the most brilliant offensive minds I've ever been around in my life, and just a lot of people just to absorb knowledge from. And
Mhm.
one thing that I thought really, I guess, springboarded my knowledge of the game was, Coach Saban, I think, has the best process for developing young coaches. And for me, he was so open for me to learning different things. After my first year there, even though I was an offensive support staff guy, I wanted to learn defense, because I'm thinking,
Mhm.
even though we went, undefeated and won a national championship, beat Texas in 2009, I thought, yeah, we had a great year, but when people think of Alabama, they think about great defense. And
Uh-huh.
so I didn't know anything. I really didn't. And so he was great about letting me sit in on defensive install meetings, or whether it be him or Kirby up there installing the defense to the players in spring or fall camp. All those guys are really patient about me going and asking questions. This is where Coach Saban was really great about, and patient about. If I had a football question, he would let you come and ask him anything,
Mhm.
and he would explain it to you. And I learned so much, and then be able to go and step into Kirby Smart's office and ask him about stuff, and Jeremy Pruitt, Sal Sinceri,
Mhm.
and in the GA room, we had so many good coaches go through there. My first 2 years there, the defensive GA was Dan O'Brien, who's now the defensive coordinator at Southern Miss, and he's been around a lot of other places. Derek Ansley, who's the
Mhm.
defensive coordinator of the LA Chargers. He and I sat right next to each other for 2 years, and those guys were really great about letting me ask them questions and pick their brain, and really learn the defensive side of the ball. And it was a great opportunity for me to grow my overall knowledge. And what I would say now is, for anybody that wants to be an offensive coach, you need to go learn defense. If you want
Mhm.
to be a defensive coach, you need to go learn offense, because at the end of the day, how are you going to beat something if you don't really know what it is? You're
Mhm.
not. All you're going to be is a product of positive circumstance, and you got to learn the game.
Yep.
learn the and so that was an unbelievable experience. Then after 6 years there, I went to Auburn and got to learn Gus's offense and his system of doing things, and got to work with some really good coaches, JB Grimes, Tim Horton. It was just an awesome experience. Awesome experience. And you look at that whole journey, learning from Coach Nutt and how big he was on development and fundamental development, working with Mike Markson, who was a great technician, and then going working for Joe Pendry and learning. Joe had been an offensive coordinator in the NFL for many, many years. And, he had a system of rules that would tie in complex systems to make them simple, make them all tie together and easier to learn. And then you take, Jeff Stoutland with how he, coached the defensive aspect to the offensive line and his process of fundamental development. Mario Cristobal was a great technician,
Mm-hmm.
had a great relationship and rapport with the players. And so, I took bits and pieces of kind of what I believed, how I thought this should really look. And basically, I would say I took the best of all those guys and kind of built my own philosophy. And then when I got to Auburn, I didn't work with the offensive line. I worked with the running backs and the fullbacks. But I got to spend a lot of time with JB Grimes.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, we lived in the same apartment complex, and he lived on the bottom corner of one end, and I lived on the top corner of the next building over. And I would come home in the afternoon and I'd take a peek over the ledge. And if I saw smoke coming out from the back of that, I knew he was out there grilling. And I would just happen to walk
Yeah.
around there, and we'd sit there and we'd sit there on his patio. We'd drink Miller Lite, and I would just absorb wisdom and knowledge,
Yeah.
and just pick his brain and just learn. And I would say my time spent with JB was the final piece. That was it. And really a lot of the stuff that I talked about in my clinic about how I label the different footwork and how
Mm-hmm.
I categorize that, even the pass sets, that's all from JB Grimes. I got that from him. And so that's really how I've developed. And, again, I got really lucky. I was around a lot of great guys that were, really willing to teach me and give me the opportunity and create an environment for me to learn and grow. And really that's why I'm at where I'm at. It's those people, it's Coach Nutt give me an opportunity and having a program to let me grow as a coach. It's Coach Saban,
Mm-hmm.
his program and how that's designed to help young coaches grow, and all those people that went through that program in the 6 years I was there. And I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real special opportunity for me.
I'm going to try to make a joke here. They let you go to Auburn from Alabama. They allow that to happen.
Well, I might have ruined some friendships there, but but yeah, that was a very interesting transition. But both were very rewarding experiences.
Oh yeah, I knew I had to throw that joke. I'm a big Nick Saban fan. That's why I have an Alabama thing hanging up. People are like, "Oh, you're just a bandwagoner." I'm like, "No, I follow Nick Saban. I'm a fan of coaches, so I'm a fan of tons of schools." And I was like, "I'm a fan of what he does." And before he even got to Alabama, so I told people to shut up. And like I said, I've talked to people that worked for him, and yeah, we worked 5 a.m. to 10 p.m., 11 p.m., but it's okay. We learned a lot. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. So I'm a big fan of Nick Saban, and that's why I have Alabama stuff up, and I do it to piss people off too. They're like, well, they just win, right? I'm like, I grew up by Champaign-Urbana, so like I'm a U of I fan first. Coach Bielema's doing great things. They're going to turn it around, but I'm like, we don't have championships, so I have to root for somebody. I have to get there for somebody.
I tell you, I think, I know I'm biased because I was there for so long, but Coach Saban is the best. He's the best in
Yeah.
the business, and there's a reason why he's been consistently successful. There's a lot of coaches that'll win, have a couple of good winning years, a couple of bad years. There's a couple of guys that walk into jobs that are a product of positive circumstance, but there's a reason why he's been a consistent winner. And dude, his process of developing players from a physical standpoint, mental standpoint, fundamental standpoint, it's second to none. And I really got very lucky to be able to get a front row seat to see not only that process, but how you manage an organization, from top to bottom. And I got to see that for 6 years, and I was really, really lucky to be able to do that.
Well, that's why this summer I went back and looked. And I'm like, it's not called culture; it's the standard and the process. So I had to go back and look at his words because I have some of the books. I had to go back and look, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to use the word. I can use the word culture, but like, what does that really mean? And that's why I was looking at the standard and how you act. And the
Yeah.
process or, the
Yeah, yeah,
mission.
and I know the word culture as it relates to athletics gets thrown around a lot, but really, all that is your a series of beliefs that
Uh-huh.
drives the
Yep.
behaviors that get you the results that you want.
Yep.
And some people call it your core principles and values.
Hmm.
Some people call it the process, but that's what it is. That's what it
Yeah.
is. And I think he's the best.
Yeah, because the media throws that around, and that's why I'm like, well, I'm not going to trust what the media says all the time. I'm going to go to the sources. So I'm like, if I go to actual coaches and like talk about it, and because during COVID, that's all it was. I was like, oh, culture, leadership, because in COVID you had nothing else to do. So
Yeah.
that's what that was, and I was the guy that threw it around, and then I don't know why. Maybe because I'm gonna be 33 and I'm maturing. Who knows? But it just clicked. I was like, well, that's not the word, and and you look it up, and it's like you said, it's your core values, and they all work together. And
Right.
all that stuff put together will lead to wins because you're doing all the right things and
Right.
don't sacrifice one over the other. And then it's a big thing. Like if a kid walks out of practice, how do you handle that situation? And that's the culture. I know coaches that bring guys in. Well, what should we do with him? Don't play him. Well, wait a minute. That's our best quarterback, though. Maybe we should play him. So some coaches sacrifice, and that's what I've been learning. Like you can't sacrifice who you are, and like a story I tell people. I worked for a head coach here for a year in Illinois. He doesn't have the state titles, but he's one of the best because he told me when I was turning this program around, we were 4-4. We win the next game, we go to the playoffs. My starting quarterback uh, misses the bus and drives to the game. And I said, nope, the team rule is you're at the bus. Why did you miss? He was getting a haircut. And he's like, I missed the bus because I was getting a haircut. He goes, you ain't playing. This is my thing. You ain't playing. And they lost. He's like, I'm not sacrificing anything. Now they go 8-1 every year, win the conference and get to the playoffs. Like he had to get through that, that swamp part. But he's like, that's his culture. That's his standard. He's like, this is what it is. You don't like it, don't be here. And now he gets good people. Now he gets kids playing college ball and everything else. And now kids leave to go to that school. Like it's just that's what you have to do. And that's what I learned. I love telling people that story and they go, that's true. And I got there for the right moment. I've seen it. So that's why now I do the same thing. I'm not a head coach, but I do it with my room. I'm like, this is the standard. I had an old lineman miss today. So guess what? Tomorrow, when we have a joint practice with another team, you ain't on the starting line anymore. You've got to now earn that back because that's the standard. And that's where the respect factor comes in. So that was
Absolutely. Yeah. Whatever you want to call it, your standard expectations, culture, whatever, as long as you're consistent, your players are going to know, your players are going to eventually buy in. And really that's the foundation of your program, that right there.
Yeah. Um, what was your favorite position to coach? Has it been the O line or was it all that like any other position?
I've liked them all. I like my time with the running backs. I love my time at Auburn when I was helping out the fullbacks. I love the offensive line aspect to it. I've been in the quarterback room twice. I like that part of it. I wouldn't consider myself an O line guy. I know a lot of coaches like to just specialize in one position. I want to think of myself as a football guy. I want to be able to say, hey, I can coach anything. I like the game. I like, I don't just like offense. I like defense too. I like
Mhm.
special teams. I love the game. I love all areas of it.
Well, you're the second college coach this week to tell me about teaching the O lineman the defense. Like the scout guys have to understand the other team's defense. And if you don't understand it, if the coach doesn't understand it, you're going to be in big trouble. So it's very interesting because you're the second one this week. Like to tell me that, and I thought about it, and you just said it again. If you understand what they're trying to do, then you understand how to attack it. And so that was just interesting. I was like, you're the second college coach. Maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something that college coaches are doing now. Like they're showing their defense. Like we're not going to learn how to block it yet. We're going to learn what technique they're doing, how they get hands on. This is why they're stunting. This is why the linebacker's going here. And if you understand that, then you know how to attack it. And some don't spend that time. They just go, this is how we block it because this is how we block it. This is how we
Right.
pass protect because this is how we pass protect. And so when you're on the field, they don't understand that.
I think a lot of coaches just say, hey, here's the rules to every play, and then we're just going to worry about the rules. I'm just coaching the rules.
Mm-hmm.
But not every defense is going to line up and sit there and take it. They're going to move around.
Yeah.
They're going to try to create disruption and generate
Yep.
negative plays, and you got to be ready for that. You got to be ready to adjust when needed, and your players have got to be able to get pre-snap reads and keys and understand when things are about to happen and when to make those adjustments. Versus just, hey, they're going to line up and stay there. Now we can just run off the ball and roll. So it's important that you learn that side of it.
Mm-hmm. That happened to me. I was a 25-year-old OC at a high school, and for the first 4 weeks of watching film, every team was doing exactly what they were going to do on film. So I never thought about it. I think it was week 5 or 6. This team for 5 or 6 weeks was a odd man front team. They come to me and they turned into a 4-4, whatever. My kids panicked because I didn't practice it because I'm like, nope, this is what they do. It got to that point, and that's when I realized I have to be able to show them what defense is going to do to stop us, because we were a big inside zone run team. So they put more linemen up there to try to double team to free up linebackers, and my kids just panicked. And I'm like, I did not do a good job of doing that. So from then on, from 25 on, I realized I have to, because I coached defense before that. I was back to offense, but I didn't do a good job of doing that. So now that's what I do too. I'm like, guys, think about it. They're going to try to get separation. They're going to do this. They're going to move here because they're going to try to take it away. So we got to be prepared. It's never going to be the perfect picture of what we're about to see. Right. And guess what? They're going to they might hop into a 5-2 for all I know. And now what are we going to do when they jump into a bear front and everything else? And so if you understand that, we understand how to block it. Yeah, we have our rules, but rules can be broken because this is how this is going to happen. And that has helped those kids out tremendously. Like I said, it's taken about 2.5 years, but it's finally like clicking because they were sophomores, now they're seniors, and it's clicking. And so, when you're young, you make those mistakes. When I get old, now that I'm older, it helps. Like that's why I cut my hair. There's no gray hairs. I don't want people to see it. Like that's why it's gone. There was something else I was going to ask you. Oh, because I'm labeled an O-line coach because that's what I played. Coaching for 14 years. I probably coached it for 7 years. I coached every position, though, being an OC. The most boring one was quarterbacks because I got tired of going out to practice saying, all right, let's throw the ball. Let's work on footwork. This is boring. I'm going to go watch the O-line. And so, I think it's just people don't want to coach O-line because it's too hard because it's all 5 guys. You're trying to get it all working together. Because people will straight up be like, I'm not coaching O-line. That's how I've gotten jobs in the suburbs, was going from Central Illinois, moving to the burbs. That's what it is. That's what gets me in is we need an O-line guy. We need an O-line guy. And I may have to do it for the rest of my life, but I love it. But people don't understand everything. It's an unnatural position. You're trying to get all 5 guys to do something at one time. And the moment you notice something's wrong, you're going to coach it that way. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, when that receiver runs a wrong route, but you don't throw it that way, do you even pay attention that he ran the wrong route? Oh, you're right. I'm like, lineman, if he misses a block or goes the wrong way and the quarterback gets killed, guess who gets yelled at? I do. And they're like, so I get to a point sometimes I'm like, can we switch? I'll go do our receivers or whoever you guys do O-line. Let's switch and see what happens. No, I'm good. So I'm labeled the O-line coach because I think there is a shortage of them because people don't do it no more.
Yeah. Of course, all the positions that touch the ball are going to be the most popular.
Oh, yeah.
The quarterback, has the ball all the time, and in the running backs, receivers, all that stuff. So I think that usually those positions always get the most attention, and the people that want to do that the most. And one of the things that does kind of suck about always being in an O-line position is most people will only hire coordinators that have been quarterback coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Or head coaches that have only been coordinators, and so it's sometimes you can get kind of typecast, and I think a lot of O-line coaches get an unjust perception that, hey, all they know is the front 7. That's it. That's all they can teach. That's not always the case. Because you see some guys that are at other skill positions that don't understand the big picture, that are not great play callers. And then guys that are coordinators, sometimes they don't transition to be great head coaches. I think that's the only negative part about always just getting stuck in an O-line job. But I love it, man. That saying, it all starts up front. It's the truth. It all starts up front.
Well, I go, who touches the ball first? Oh, the center. There you go. We always touch the ball first. Because it used to be O-line guys were like head coaches or OCs, and then it kind of, when the spread thing kind of came around, or I guess more popular, then it became quarterback coaches that wear the visor. Now I wear a visor because I want my head to get a little tan, but like they're always wearing the visor. I always give them shit. I'm like, you guys are wearing the visor. I'm wearing the bucket hat down there. Like, you know who I am. But that's why I like Coach Pittman at Arkansas. He's like the O-line guy that's the head coach at Arkansas. I'm like, love that. Love that there's an O-line guy being a head coach. And so I watch Arkansas even more now again because of that. Or Coach Bielema, I love him at Illinois because he played that. That's what he does, and I love it. And then I was like, do you notice how much organized people are when they were O-line coaches? Now they're like the coordinator, head coach. No offense to the other guys, but the dynamic of them and how organized they are and everything, that's because that's how the O-line group is, and that's how it works. And like I said, I love it all. I'll coach any position. I've done it, love it. That's why I love being the run game guy, because I can help out running backs. I can help out the mesh points of quarterbacks. I can help out tight ends. And, but like during individual, it's O-line, but I love how organized that we all are. Even though I wish I could bring that into my own life at home, but like outside of home, I'm pretty organized. When I'm at home, I just throw stuff everywhere. I'm like, well, I know where it is though. You know, it's like a garage. You just throw stuff in there, but I know where it is. I'll go get it when I need it. And that's just how we are, I think.
Yeah, I guess the common the common characteristic of really good offensive line coaches is that they're detailed. Because
Mm-hmm.
you have to, if you're not detailed, something's going to go wrong throughout the course of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think that all the best coordinators that I've been around, that's what they are. They are
Yeah.
detailed.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah.
No, because every year I'm going to type up like who we are as O linemen and all that stuff. And it's very detailed. I have drills. I help out our position coaches, and it's all drills for running backs and how the run game goes. And I realized, oh my God, why is this 17 pages? Oh, wait a minute, because I'm explaining everything in full detail, and it's like 17 pages. But then our head coach said that. He goes, but you're an O-line coach. And I'm like, I take that as a compliment though. Or I have to wear a different shirt sometimes. They go, well, we figured out O-line coaches don't have to listen and follow the rules. And I was like, you're damn right we don't have to. I'm going to go do my own thing. We're in our own little, I call it the promised land where the old linemen go. Like, it's a promised land down there. But we start to get special treatment. We're the only group that's going to get t-shirts because we're going to make them special. We're the only ones I give extra water breaks to because we are special. We're not going to run because we're special, but we'll have other things. So it's just, I don't mean to keep bringing up the O-line thing. It's just when I first started this podcast, that's when I realized there's no O-line coaches. I started to realize it. And I'm like, we're a rare breed, I guess. So that's why I love talking to O-line coaches, because we are like a rare breed of individuals, because we're all different. We all have a few screws missing a little bit. We're all high energy. We're all very detailed, and you know, uh, and we don't need a lot of equipment to practice with either. I realized that the other day. They were like, "What equipment do you need?" Give me the cones and the chute. That's all I need. You have hand shields? Yeah, that's what I need. Oh, you don't need this, and this. I was like, fuck your agile bags. I don't need that. Um, I guess to slowly wrap it up, what kind of run game would you guys hang your hat on down there? Like what were you guys going to base in down there?
We're typically a zone team.
Okay.
Inside zone variations, outside zone variations. Split inside, tight end wing. That's kind of our bread and butter, and we'll mix it up with some gap scheme stuff. But that's kind of from an identity standpoint, the run game. That's who we are.
Mm-hmm. Now, is it outside zone or wide zone? Because I got yelled at when I researched this. I don't know if you know that. There's like a camp. Because it's my second year doing wide zone. I remember researching. I'm like, okay, how do you run outside zone? And the guy was like, no. What are you doing here? Are you doing wide zone or outside zone? And I was like, what's the difference? Is it stretch? And they're like, nope. I was like, okay, sorry, my bad.
So we actually have all three. We'll have
Okay.
the tight zone, which is the tight A gap entry.
Yeah.
We'll have the mid zone, which is the B gap entry, and we'll have the wide zone, which is the C gap type entry stuff. And we do have our full stretch plays where we're totally committed to getting the ball in the perimeter. We have all those,
Oh, yeah.
but we have. I would say our zone run game is very comprehensive, and then
Yeah.
all the the reads and different ways you can create the reads off of that, whether it be the in man, the midline, zone insert. We have all that.
Yeah. I got yelled at for that. And it was kind of like asking a run and shoot guy for the pass protection. They're like, we can't tell you because we lose our card in the run and shoot. They're like, we'll give you all the routes, but we can't tell you how we run, block, or pass protect. Like, we will literally lose our card. And I'm like, really? Like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And then I ask an air raid coach their concept, like, oh, here you go, like whatever. I'm like, oh, you air raid guys are much nicer than the run and shoot guys, you know. So when you guys are running the zone stuff, does like your inside zone or the mid zone, does footwork change? Does any of this that part change?
Yeah,
Oh,
sure. So if we're tight zone, typically, hey, we're trying to get vertical push.
mhm,
The aim point of the back is going to be the play side hip of the center. So it's a tight A gap entry.
mhm,
And so we want the line to mirror the entry point of the back, right? So we're looking for vertical push.
mhm.
And mid zone, the B gap entry is going to be a little bit more lateral footwork, working power angles, right? We're trying
Okay.
to work angles because again, the at the point of entry for the back and the O line, they've got to match, they got to marry up. Then obviously the wide zone stuff, with our aim point is the butt of the ghost tight end or tight
Yeah.
end if he's game. Obviously, that's going to be full bucket, trying to get the head outside number dry block, and again because that matches the path of the back.
Okay. Because I want to run inside zone at the guard, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm dealing with high school kids. And so when they start to aim there, what do they want to do? Though they start aiming towards the C gap or the D gap. And I'm like, well, now you have no protection because we're trying to get downhill ish. So now I have to overcompensate and aim for the center. And then I quickly realize as I start doing that, this is actually mid zone and it's not in like the zone, the other zone anymore. But I overcompensate, but that's exactly how it is. We're double team, we're getting vertical, and we're trying to get downhill as quickly as possible. And then for our wide zone, I can't even bucket step. I just turn and go. I tell them to point the toe and go, aim for the play side number. I don't bucket step. And I'd rather do that because I want to get in front of them as quickly as possible. Um, and then when I first learned it and you could yell at me, I said, I don't want to lose ground to gain ground. And I got yelled at pretty quickly. They're like, that's not what it is. Like, you're not losing ground to gain ground. It can look that way, but you're taking these steps to get in the proper position. And that's when I really started to open up of like, aiming points and like it was almost like geometry of how things fit together and work together. And that's when that was my school of like learning because that was always a gap scheme. Then I learned the zone. I was like, oh, this is a different world, and I got to make sure things fit and naturally and the footwork matches up and so I try to keep footwork the same for my inside zone stuff. But then when you get to wide zone and stuff, that's change. And so that's why I was curious. I was like, because I keep it simple. I'm stupid simple. I'm like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and then it's gotta stay the same.
So how I typically teach it, and a lot of guys will actually debate, hey, do you need both tight zone and mid zone? Some
Mhm.
guys say, hey, just pick one or the other, and that way it cuts back on the teaching. But I think there's a lot of value in having all three. And I think at some point throughout the season, you're going to enter the game plan process and say, hey, well, this is a little bit better, run presentation than the other. But basically, how I teach it to keep guys vertical, that it's all about the first step, right? That's going to
Yeah.
what going to keep your hips and shoulders square. Your first step is what I call a combo step, right? It's 6 inches up and out,
Yeah.
right? And you drive the second step, vertical. That keeps you square. That keeps the vertical push, right? So that's all the tight zone stuff, right? Now, to work your power angle, that first step is a lateral step,
Mhm.
6 inches to the side. It's not going up the field. You drive the second step, that gets you on the power angle.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And
Yeah.
then the wide zone is just that what I call full bucket, and it's literally 6 inches out and back, so that way your hips and shoulders open,
Mhm.
and then you stick off the ball that front foot, drive the second step through the crotch of the defender, and then create that outside number dry block, and then try to square up on the third and try to fight to get vertical push.
Yeah. Yeah. Wide zone, we push the world away and I get them to step at this angle and just go. We don't I don't I may have to try that, but like I'm dealing with linemen that can just turn and go. And I'm like, that's what we're gonna do. I have to adjust to that. And I do exactly what you do on mid zone. It's boom, boom. Like we're taking that quick step here, boom, right into the crotch. We're getting our flipper arm into them and we're going and double teaming because we want double teams all over the place so we can get downhill as quickly as possible. But depending how they line up, it sometimes is mid zone. If that's all, like as soon as the right back sees it's done, he aims here. So I guess we kind of do both, I guess.
Okay.
But I'm an idiot, so however it works, because I got to deal like high school kids. I got to look at it, and if they can't do that footwork, I may tell one player to change his footwork. which makes my life harder because then I watch film. I'm like, why is he doing different? Oh, because I told him to do something different because he's got to get to that same point. And yeah, it's college guys. I envy you sometimes. I'm like, I got to deal with what I deal with. I guess you guys have the transfer portal now to freaking deal with that.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
feel bad
That's a
for you
pain in
guys.
the ass.
Oh, so I was talking to a coach the other day, and he's like, I won't say who it is. It's at college. He's like, I had guys leave. He got 4 out of the transfer portal, and he goes, I asked my support staff. I was never more exhausted talking to these guys left and right and trying to get them here. And now he's like, they're junior seniors. I've got to teach them how we do it. They got to fit into what we do, and it makes life harder
Yeah.
to do that. Like,
And one thing I found that the older the players get, the harder it is to break those technique habits. If they've done it a certain way for so long, they develop that muscle memory. They just naturally do it, and it's really harder to get older guys to break those habits. For what we do here, we stick to the old formula. We want to get high school guys and the best high school guys that we can get that want to be here, and we develop them, and we develop them to play the way we want them to play, and it's to help avoid getting in those issues where you have to try to change an older guy and all that.
you kind of answer that because I asked some people, like, do you still recruit high school the same as you did before because of this transfer portal? And it's kind of hit or miss. They go, yeah, we still go to high schools and everything else, but it's just if a kid leaves at the last second, then immediately we can't look at the high school kid. We got to go look at the portal. But they're still looking at the high school kid, um, or they're looking at a different college. Like if they go in the transfer portal because they went to a college one year, Division I AA, or it's Division II, Division III, we look at that and they're young, they were a freshman, now they're sophomore. Now we can still get them to do what we need to do. But if they're a 5th-year senior, like you said, they came from a up tempo, we're just going to run these 2 plays, and they come to a different place. Now we got to learn all this new stuff. It's going to be hard to get them to, when shit hits the fan, they're going to go back to what they know.
We never want to recruit a guy just to be an extra body.
Yeah.
That typically just is not going to work out, especially the 1-year guys. You always want to have some years to work with them and to develop them to some degree.
Yeah.
So that way they kind of fit what your identity is and all that.
Yeah. That's what I don't trust the media on anything anymore. So I go straight to the sources, and that's what people tell me. And, I like going to the source, but yeah. But some don't feel bad for you college coaches because they're like, oh, they make this money. I'm like, no. It's just adding. It's a new experience. It's a positive. Try to make it a positive thing. But I'm like, I feel bad because now you guys are constantly on campus. You're constantly having to like talk to kids and stuff like that. And I'm like, you still get to do what you love, but you're just adding more on top of what you guys have to do. And I'm like, I'm thinking of it from a coach perspective, and I'm like supporting coaches, and I'm like, no, like that's just more on top of it. I mean, it's going to balance itself out soon, but like for right now, just getting through the thick of it. Like, so you answered the question, I guess, but I just feel bad for you guys sometimes. Like you guys have to get through the thick of it right now, dealing with everything. NIL, which is great, but then the transfer portal on top of it. And, how do you keep kids? And what happens when you try to keep a kid and they leave? Like, do you take that personally and say, what did I do wrong? And all that stuff. And, but you got to keep moving forward. And
well, at the end of the day, if you have a great relationship with your players and they know that you care about them and they know that you're trying to do what's best for them, and the way you do things can help them get to where they want to be, a lot of times you're going to be able to keep them. There's some circumstances that you're not. Kid comes to you and say, hey, it's my dream school. I've always wanted to play here. Well, yeah. Or, if somebody's offering them more money and all that crap, then all right, it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. But, one thing that the threat of the portal has done is put a more sense of urgency to get those younger guys developed. And get those, even though they're a quote backup, you need to play them. You need to put them in meaningful snaps of games so that they develop and get experience. So that way, if you lose a guy in the portal or you lose a guy early to the draft, then your next man up is already a developed, experienced player.
right,
And that kind of will alleviate some of the pressure of those situations.
right. Well, Coach, I took a lot of your time. I appreciate you being here, especially because you guys are going to be in the thick of it with your season soon. but I appreciate you coming right off your vacation to hop on and talk to a nobody coach up in Illinois somewhere. I
Hey,
appreciate
hey,
it.
there takes there is no such thing as a nobody coach. Seriously, man, anytime people, invest in young people's lives, no matter what age it is, I think those people are special. I really do. And because you never know the impact that you're going to have on your players. I mean, you're really not. And, you know, man, I love talking to coaches, love talking to ball, man. I really appreciate you. You'll let me come on and visit with you. It's been fun, man. I really appreciate it.
Nope, thank you. And I do all three sports. I do all three: football, basketball, baseball. So I am literally,
Nice. So
oh,
hey, you're busy year round.
my fiance is starting to hate it a little bit. One of them I'm going to have to give up at some point. One of them are going to have to be gone because she's like, "Wait,
now,
you got to do what?" I'm like, "Yeah,
now,
see,
now, of the three sports, which is your least favorite, or do you not want to answer that yet?
it's baseball. I don't really care. I did track.
Okay.
I switched to baseball. It is baseball. Now I love
Okay.
it. It's the easiest one. I don't care who knows it. It's the easiest one to coach. That's where I'm my most relaxed is baseball. But if I have to give one up, it's going to be baseball. Like it goes in order. Football's favorite, basketball second favorite, baseball's the third. So I'm like, it's gone. Don't you worry about it. They will be gone. But no, I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Coach.